Hey, welcome to Ed, a podcast about the teaching life. This is Conversation 64, and I'm your host, Shane Lawrence. Ed is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network powered by ATB. And joining me this week is podcaster and teacher Ramona Meharg. Well, hello, how are you?
I am good, and yourself?
I'm a little shocked that I have to keep doing this next week, so...
Keep doing like the whole work thing?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, next week's not a short week.
No, I know. I couldn't believe, like, after like day 2, I'm like, I am so tired.
Day 2, I'm like, oh my God, and it's only Wednesday.
Yeah, I know. This is just it. Getting old, I think. It's getting harder every year. But, oh well, we'll survive. You had a good first week?
Yeah, crazy busy. Yeah, I have a couple of really high needs kids this year, so, adjusting to that. Two with autism that are pretty high needs, so definitely some adjustments being made.
Yeah, no worries. I get that. I mean, every year comes with new challenges. It's never the same job, right? So.
Yes, but it's certainly fun.
Good stuff. Well, why don't we just dive right into this, because we're on a bit of a tight timeline because I got to get my kids. But so we'll do the official thing. Ramona, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Shane. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
That's a good thing. After our last episode, I wasn't so sure. So.
Oh my gosh, I had a great time on our last episode.
That was a blast. I really enjoyed it. Listeners, if you haven't listened to the check-in 32, I think, that was the one we did. Yeah, it was pretty bonkers, but it was fun. So me and Ramona and a crazy Australian. So good times. But let's just dive right into this. You are a teacher and a podcaster. Let's go with the first half of that. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do? What's your assignment?
All right. Well, I am at a high school in St. Thomas, Ontario, and I have a congregated special education class. So what that means is that students with high needs, with developmental needs, are in my classroom. So I work with students with autism and students with Down syndrome and a variety of different disabilities in my classroom. And we integrate them where we can. And if they're not integrated, then they're in the classroom with me.
All right. So what does that kind of classroom look like then? I'm curious.
I have 10 in my room, and I'm lucky I have 3 educational assistants working with me this year, because I have some students with some high needs for safety reasons where I need some extra hands in there. Mm-hmm. And I do, for the kids who don't do a lot of integration, I'm doing their literacy and their numeracy and their digital citizenship and a lot of social skills and a lot of living skills.
Okay. So is this where you started? Have you always been in this particular role?
No, actually, I graduated as a history, English, kind of social sciences teacher, and I did actually have not taught English high school in Ontario. I graduated from St. Thomas University in New Brunswick, and so their social studies includes geography and history, and I taught some English out there, and then came back here and did some history, and then I got my nice pink slip for a couple years in a row there, and they asked if I would come back in special ed because I had my special ed qualifications, and I've been doing special ed ever since. So it's probably like 21 years. Okay,
so that's like the bulk of your career then.
Bulk of my career has been, whether it's been in a congregated class or whether it's been as a learning support teacher, it's mostly been special ed.
Wow. Okay, so I mean, I have, occasionally have students in my class who are higher needs. I don't know if they are in the same kind of level of need as what you have, but I mean, I really struggle with that in general. So what drew you to that kind of classroom? Because I mean, for me, that just would not be my thing. Right? I wouldn't want to teach gym. I wouldn't want to teach a special ed class. I mean, I wouldn't want to go in areas where I feel like I'm extremely weak. I mean, so what pulled you into that space?
I think as a teenager, I had worked as a peer helper with students with developmental disabilities, and so I wasn't uncomfortable with it. And then when I got out of teachers college, of course there were no jobs, and I got on the supply list, and they said, "Well, will you go to a developmental classroom?" Of course, and I didn't really actually truly understand what that meant. I had never worked with some of the super high needs kids before, but I said, of course, sure. So, you get in there and you're like, oh, I kind of enjoy doing this, whether it was medically fragile kids or kids with autism or kids with Down syndrome or the very many disabilities that are out there. I really enjoyed working with those kids all day because I have them all day. And I really like that because I can have them till they're 21. So in the high school situation, that means I can have them from 14 to 21. So that's 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so all day for 7 years. I mean, but no, I really enjoy making the relationships with the kids. I know them, I know their family, and it becomes a classroom where just about anything is possible because the trust level is there.
Wow. So, sorry, I'm still trying to switch my brain over from school day. I'm toast here doing. I guess I'm coming at this though from honestly a real place of ignorance. I mean, I have no idea what you do or what it looks like or even, yeah. So tell me a little bit about, I mean, how do the relationships work with these kind of students? And I mean, I guess it's going to vary across, the kind of students you have, but I mean, what does that look like for you over like, say, a 7-year period?
Yeah, I mean, if I have them in grade 9, and I don't always, because we're lucky enough, we have 3 classrooms in our school
Mm-hmm.
of students with these high needs, so we can move them around a little bit and make sure that the some kids just don't get along with each other, and it's not a good mix if you do that. So we can move them around a little bit. But if I have somebody from grade 9, which I sometimes do, and I have them all the way till they're 21, you start out with all the same things you would do with your class. You're playing some of those get to know you games, those icebreakers. You get to know their abilities, and you get to know what things they're good at. You get to know the things that they need some help with. And so when you're doing what you do in a classroom, so for example, if I'm reading a novel with them, one of the things we love to do is the Global Read Aloud, which is a book that students all over the world read at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
We all read the same book. All 10 of them in the room at that time, we're all reading that same book, but we're just varying the expectations of what they can do. So some of the students might be able to write their responses to the book. Some of them need to video their responses to the book. And some of them are listening and then just sharing as best they can orally. So it's all based on what the kids can do.
And that's got to be a pretty wide swath of abilities, even in one classroom then.
Absolutely, yeah. Because some of them are working academically at a junior kindergarten or the odd time even lower level. And I don't generally have too many who are working maybe grade 5, 6. So although socially they may be high school
Mm-hmm.
age, they are working in their numeracy and literacy probably much lower, like 4, 5, 6 grades below grade level.
Wow. Wow. So what does success look like for you then?
Different for every student. So, we most of what we do is guided by their individual education plan, their IEP,
Mm-hmm.
which we do each semester. We update for the new semester, and you look at, what have they been working on? What are some things they're now able to do, and what are some things that we still need to work on? And so you guide what you're doing and what your expectations are for that student based on what you've done in the IEP with consultation with their parents and with them, and what you've seen in the classroom.
Okay. And I mean, one of the reasons that I feel like for me, it would be a really tough place to be is, I just feel like it would be really challenging. I mean, when I have one student who needs that extra attention, I just find it very hard to give that to them. So, I mean, what sort of challenges are there for you in this classroom? And I mean, how do you face them? How do you solve them?
Well, there's certainly lots of challenges. There's no doubt about that. I can give you an example from today.
Yeah.
I have 10, and we're still trying to get everybody computer logged in. So because they have to have permission to use Google, I'm waiting for forms to come in. So a couple forms come in at a time. So I'm trying to get a few kids on the computer. Let's get you in there. Let's change your password, because as soon as you get in, you got to change your password. And some of them can't remember their password. So of course I have to sit with them and take them through the steps.
That has nothing to do with special needs classroom. I can tell you that right now.
Yes. So anyways, on top of that, I've got to sit down with them, write it down. I'm working with one. Another one to the left of me is saying, I can't find my password. Another one's saying, I forgot my pictures at home. And then one's running out the door because he's got to go to the bathroom. And yeah, like sometimes it can be crazy. And the one student I've got one who likes my help nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
Although he can do a lot of things himself, kept saying my name. Mrs. Meharg, Mrs. Meharg, Mrs. Meharg. And I think at one point I turned to him and said, I am changing my name and I'm not telling you what it is. And we both had a little laugh, and then he worked on his own pretty well after that. But
Oh, okay.
so that's one situation. And I've also worked with students who have some other challenging needs. Right now, we have one who can become a little bit physically violent.
Mm.
And so I have to make sure that there's, at least two people in his vicinity at the same, like always, because, if he decides to do something that is not okay in the classroom, we're going to have to intervene. We may have to evacuate the classroom.
Hmm.
We have just been told we're going to be needing to wear personal protective equipment.
Oh,
So that's been ordered. I'm not particularly looking forward to that, but I mean, it is a safety
so
thing.
you're
So
going to like be wearing armor?
yes, first time in
Wow.
24 years.
Oof. That's wow. That just blows my mind. I mean, that doesn't even equate to anything like in my experience. Holy smokes. Wow.
Well,
Sorry.
honestly, it's a new one for me as well. But this student, when he gets quite upset, has been known to injure staff. So you got to do what you got to do. And
Mm.
and when he's not in that state, which is actually a fairly rare occurrence,
Mm.
he is a lovely young man. So we're working on all those other things and hoping that we don't ever get to that stage.
Yes, one would hope. One
Yeah.
would hope. Wow. Um, Now, the other thing I've sort of noticed just from creeping on your Twitter account, frankly, but is you're really big, like you're Apple certified. You have all the Google stuff going on. So what does tech integration look like for you? I mean, what kind of stuff do you want students to be picking up on? How do you use it to? I got too many questions. Let's start there.
That's okay. Yeah.
How do
Well,
you
I
integrate in your
think
classroom?
tech for me has been huge, and I think I've talked to other people about this too. That technology in a special education classroom becomes that leveler. It allows kids to do things so that they can all come up with a product that they're proud of. For example, some kids don't have any written language, but verbally they're fantastic.
Hmm.
So instead of a blog, then they vlog, right? They're using Flipgrid.
Mm.
Or kids who are nonverbal can use text to speech. It's for me, it's been a great thing. And my kids are lucky because they're all special needs. They all have special equipment amounts, so they all have their own iPad in the room. So we have desktops, we have iPads, we have a couple Chromebooks. Very technology heavy in the room, but we're very lucky to be that as well. And so there's no reason for anyone in the room to not be able to contribute in a way that meets their needs.
Right, right. So I mean, you started this 20 years ago, you said. And 20
Mm-hmm.
years ago, I mean, when's 20 years ago? That's 1998. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my first year of university. And at that
Yeah.
point,
Well, and actually, I graduated like in '94. So when I was in Teachers College, they announced that the information superhighway was coming.
I remember that term. Wow, that's going back a ways.
Yeah. So you
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
remember when I graduated from Teachers College, there was no internet. So we've
Hmm.
come. I kind of feel like some of those folks, people say, oh, that the generation at the turn of the last century, what a change they went from horse and buggy to cars to telephones. But if you
Hmm.
think about the last 20 years in education, the change from maybe no computers or something with a cassette drive, which is what I learned how
Hmm.
to, how to
Yep.
work on at the beginning, to what we're using now has been huge.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
My
Yeah.
first classroom didn't even have a computer in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, well, when I started, well, no, that's true. I had a computer, but I mean, everything was done on overheads. Yeah,
Hmm.
the internet was around, but it kind of, you know, wasn't really a thing yet. It wasn't helpful, really.
Yes.
It was
Yeah, email.
still,
What's that?
yeah, yeah. Well, it was that, and cat pictures and chain letters still.
On a
So,
nice green screen.
so okay. So now that we've gone through this revolution, or are going through this revolution, are things better for you as a special ed teacher?
I think so. I think there's a lot more that we can get to with the help of the technology. So in the past, we would stick really close to vocabulary, or we would work well. We would work a lot with sorting or games,
Hmm.
or we used to have these little. They're Big Macs, and you can still use them, but you could record a little message for the nonverbal kids, and they could hit the button when it was their turn to speak. But it had to
Right.
be what we said. Now they can if they have written language, they can type it into the computer whatever they want. It's not limited to 10 seconds. They can share as much as they want.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. It does. Yeah. No, you're brilliant. You know everything. That's awesome.
Sometimes I get talking, I'm like, what did he ask me again?
That's, as you well know, I am a big fan of rabbit trails, so it's all good. We can go anywhere you want. And I tend to do the same thing. It's like, yeah, get halfway down the answer and like, what am I talking about now? So it's all good. So if there are some people out there maybe who are listening who are new to this kind of situation, and honestly, for me, because I this is an area of weakness for me as a teacher. I know it is when I have kids on IEP, ISP, whatever IPP, whatever they're called, wherever you are. What are some skills that you think you could impart in this moment to those people who are struggling with that area, whether it's in a full-on special ed classroom or whether they've got just a couple of kids? All right, we'll be back in just a second, but first I want to tell you about the Well Endowed podcast, which is a production of the Edmonton Community Foundation. If you live in Edmonton, chances are you've been touched by the work facilitated by the support the ECF provides to the city's shakers, movers, and doers. As a bridge between donors and charitable causes, the ECF helps donors create endowment funds that will continue giving for generations. And this month, the Well Endowed podcast is trying something new. Instead of just one episode a month, they're going to post a new show every week, including episode 25, Arts Common and Not So Common Arts. They're going to hear all about the Edmonton Community Development Company and a new development they are planning for the Alberta Avenue neighborhood. Then they're going to touch base with Nadir Bellemer about Nuit Blanche, an all-night art party right here in downtown Edmonton. If you'd like to listen to that and all the other episodes of the Well Endowed podcast, just head over to thewellendowedpodcast.com. All right, let's get back to me and Ramona. What are some skills that you think you could impart in this moment to those people who are struggling with that area, whether it's in a full-on special ed classroom or whether they've got just a couple of kids?
Okay. I guess probably the easiest things to do are accommodations, and there's a difference between an accommodation and a modification. Mm-hmm. So an accommodation for a kid that you'll see on an individual education plan might be something like sitting closer to the front because they don't see well.
Right.
Or using a computer to type their notes as opposed to handwriting. Those are accommodations. Those are simple things. Those are those things that are great for that one kid, but if you can do them for everybody, they work well for everybody as well. So they're not changing. They're not changing what the student is learning. They're just changing the way it's presented.
Okay.
And then there are modifications, and modifications means that they're probably not working at grade level, or you're changing what the curriculum says. So they aren't working on the grade level expectations. They're working perhaps a grade or two below. And those are a little bit harder. And that's, I think, in those situations are where you really want to get involved with your special education staff or your learning support teacher to help you implement those things. But I think the great place to start is to look at all the different accommodations that you can use and get going on those.
Okay. So what about in those situations? Like, have you ever been in a situation where you are, say, you felt not enough support? I mean, what can you do in that kind of a spot? Or has that been your experience?
When you, in the classroom teacher, don't get the support that you need?
Yeah, I'm not trying to work out any demons here, but I know in the past 15 years or what have you, I know I've been in situations where it's like, oh, I wish I had some more help here. Like, I feel like I'm not getting what I need. I mean, have you ever been in that kind of spot?
I'm usually the help. So
that's true. Okay.
But I have been in situations where I have, a large number of high needs kids in a room, and I maybe don't have as many hands as I could use. That's certainly a situation you can find with tight budgets, that you're not going to have an educational assistant in the room or as many as you might like. And that's where you have to start really getting creative with how you're going to do things, whether you decide to do some blended learning, whether you decide to do some groups and try and get to those kids as much as you can, or meeting with them at lunchtime to help them keep up. It's all going to be really individual.
Mm-hmm. And that's I guess that's one of the things when you encounter, students who have, these kind of needs. It's so easy to go one size fits all in your classroom for the most part when students are a little more adaptable, but it almost makes me wonder, just how underserved all our students are in this kind of situation when we have these students who, very clearly need the extra definition when it comes to, their learning program. See, here I go down a rabbit trail. I'm not sure where I'm headed with this now. But I just wonder how we can better serve all our students along the same kind of lines, or if it's even possible. Because
Well, I mean, and even if you think about, like, I'm working with students who are working below grade level, but there's certainly lots of students in classrooms who are gifted, who are working well above grade level, or have pockets of giftedness that maybe aren't always being addressed in the classroom either. And so they can be just as difficult to help out as the ones who need more academic help to get up to grade level, as opposed to those students who are beyond grade level.
right, right. So does that kind of define how you approach your students? So you're going to look for strengths and build on those things?
Yes, exactly. I think that's a great idea. Look at their strengths and try and use those strengths to work on their areas of need.
Oh, okay. I like that. I like that.
So, for example, if you've got a kid, normally you would have them writing. I don't know if you'd have them write an essay or not.
Oh, yeah.
One of the ways you can have them still show their learning is to create a video of their argument, or do an oral debate if that's something that they want to do, or go on Twitter and do it that way. There's all kinds of different ways for students to show their learning. And the biggest thing with special education is use their strengths to let them show their learning.
Right, right. Well, so what would you say, I mean, beyond the very obvious, what are some of like the pluses of being in your kind of classroom? Like, what is it that, yeah.
I have plenty of teachers who say, I could not do what you do. And I think,
I'm one.
You know what? Are you one of them?
Oh, yeah.
I've had lots of teachers over the years say that. And then I've had them come into my room and they see the kids and they're working with the kids and like, oh, they're just kids. Yeah, they are. They're just kids. If you build a relationship with them and you tell them a joke, they're going to laugh just as hard, and you get to know them and you get to know the things that they enjoy doing. I don't know how to truly explain that, but I wouldn't have done it for 20 years, Shane, if I didn't love it. And I really and truly love it, even though it's challenging, because every student is different, every day is different. When you teach English, sometimes you teach the same book over and over and over. And because I can have a student for 7 years, once I do a novel, I can't do it again for 7 years. And so I find I'm always, always changing up. And the odd book will come back in, but then I have a different group of kids who can't access it the same way the last class did. So
right.
For me, it's great because I love the freedom that I have to do things that are perhaps outside the regular curriculum for grade level. And I love it because I never get bored. I'm never bored.
That's fantastic. Speaking of rabbit trails, every now and then it's like when people tell me they're bored, I'm like, I wish I could be bored.
I wish I had the time to be bored. I'm too busy.
Exactly. Yeah, I haven't been bored in years. I would love to be bored. Oh man. So what would you say is one thing that you do really well in your classroom? Like, what's one sort of best practice you think you have?
Well, I love field trips. Love them. So any chance I can get the kids out into the real world, I will take it. And that's something I do really well. And those are the days that I come home and I'm exhausted, but I'm like, yeah, that was a great day. I can't believe don't tell my boss, but I can't believe they're paying me to do this. I'm not giving back the paycheck, but.
Yeah. No, I got it. I say the same thing in drama all the time when we'll be doing something goofy with my kids and they'll be laughing and they'll laugh at me and I'll laugh at them. And, I'll just be like, okay, so the difference right now is that I'm getting paid to do this.
Yeah. And another thing I love too is when people say, you're doing that with you. I don't think I would try that with your group of students. I'm like, watch me. You know what I mean? I'm like, now we're doing it. Now we're doing it.
Right on. And then the Rolling Stone starts playing and you just strut down the hallway.
Yeah. And sometimes I trip over my own feet and it doesn't work as well as I'd like. But, we always find a way to do it. Someone said, oh, you're going to try Romeo and Juliet with your class? Absolutely. I got the comic book version and we learned about Romeo and Juliet.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's always a way in.
Yeah. Wow. I had to kind of stop my jaw from dropping like, what? I did it with my grade 7s once and people were like, what are you doing? So, wow, just, okay, good on you. Wow.
But I mean, it's the themes of Romeo and Juliet that they get, right?
Yeah.
So they certainly understand, forbidden love and love at first sight. And And of course, they love that everybody dies in the end, all the drama.
Yeah, yeah.
They sometimes struggle with the names, but because it's comic book, it's not the heavy language, it's not the Shakespearean language that they have to worry
Right.
about. It takes that out of the equation.
That's so cool. I love it. So what I mean, this sounds like a success, but what's like one big success you've had coming out of maybe actually let's go back to your field trips. That's kind of your best practice that you mentioned. So what's like a big success you've had coming out of that?
One of the things we really had a great time doing is last couple of years in our area. I'm near London, Ontario, and they have what they call museum school.
Hmm.
So a couple of the local museums, you can apply for a grant and they'll help pay for your busing. And you go for a week to this museum and you can do curriculum things or you can set it up with the museum for what you want to cover during that week, but you're there all day every day for a week. And so we took
Oh,
them to the Dairy Museum, which is outside of Armour, Ontario.
uh-huh.
And it's they have all kinds of old tractors and how milking used to be done. There's a whole display on the dairy princesses, and we spent a week there, and what we really focused on was making. And so the kids, with the help of the staff there, had to develop an ice cream flavor,
Uh-huh.
and then we made the ice cream.
What?
Yeah, we made the ice cream and we packaged it. And we had to come up with a label for it and a name and how we were going to market that. So they had to come up with a commercial for it. And then, of course, on the very last day, in that last half hour, we had the big tasting test and we had to judge each other's ice cream. And the kids, I mean, literally ate it up.
Womp womp.
Mind you, one of the kids decided he had to have hot dog ice cream. That nobody wanted to eat that up. That was disgusting.
Oh, I imagine. Wow. Like, I want to do this with my class now.
Oh, and you can.
That is
Like, it's not,
brilliant.
certainly not just a special education thing. It's open to all classes, and it was a fabulous week.
Like, I want to go out and buy an ice cream maker and start making ice cream in my computers class because that
Yeah,
would be the,
and they didn't even. I'm not. Did they have an ice cream maker? Yes, they did. They did have an ice cream maker, but they also had the kids making it when you can make it in the plastic bags to give them an idea of how much shaking it really takes.
I had no idea you could make ice cream in plastic bags, but now I do.
Yes, yes. And
Oh,
now that can get messy, but you can do it that way as well.
that's awesome. So, okay, what kind of flavors did you have other than hot dog?
Well, they had brought in all kinds of stuff that the kids could use. Some of them were very candy oriented. So,
Hmm.
there was gummy bear, and they would mix 10, like the kids, they would mix 10 different things in there. There'd
Oh,
be
for
like
sure, yeah.
gummy bears and peanut butter and caramel and sprinkles
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah, just heartburn waiting to happen with some of them. But I think some of the best ones were where they really focused in on two or three ingredients.
Hmm.
The peanut butter ones were amazing.
Mm.
Whatever they mixed with peanut butter was delicious. And a couple of the fruit ones were very nice too. So the kids who had decided they wanted fruit, there was a peach mango, I think it was peach mango pineapple that was really delicious.
Oh, that is so cool.
Hmm.
Seriously, I mean, if I start sounding a little bit distant at this point, it's because my head is spinning. It's like I want to do this.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
I think I actually am with my grade sevens. This would be perfect.
and the folks there were so great too. They had little two liter containers, and so they made the ice cream and they kept some out for the taste testing. But the kids also got to take home a 2 liter container of their
Mhm.
ice cream with their label on it, so they could take it home and share it with the family.
Oh, best thing ever.
Hmm.
Love it. Okay, I'm gonna pick your brain more after we wrap this up. But that's incredible. Um, and actually, wrapping it up is what we're going to be doing here shortly. So, is there anything that we missed out? Anything you wanted to add that we haven't got to?
I don't know.
Okay, awesome, perfect. Well, thank you again, and we'll see you out there in the Twitterverse and perhaps on future podcasts as well. We didn't even talk about your podcast.
Oh well,
Oh, poop.
I
Okay.
guess I should say you can find me, I guess, on Voice Ed Radio if you like as well. I do a podcast called I Wish I Knew EDU, and that's where I talk to teachers about the things they wish they knew when they started teaching, and their hopes for the future of education.
So what started you down that path? Because that's not a normal thing to do.
No, it's kind of an odd thing to do, really, isn't it? You would know.
Yeah. Super weird. Super weird.
I think I was doing my technology specialist when Voice Ed started. So I was in the middle of my, of a part 3 course, and the instructor knew Stephen at Voice Ed, and he was doing, at the very beginning of Voice Ed, a show called Voice Ed Tech Slam or something like that. And so you would go on and defend some kind of technology that you use in your classroom. And so I was the very first guest. He had asked me to come on and defend Pixton.com, which is a comic creator.
Right.
So I said, sure. So I was the very first one that he had on, and I had to go against Stephen, who was defending the Super 8 video camera. Yes.
Of course he was.
Yes. So you should, if you get a chance, go on to Voice Ed and get that archived one.
Oh,
it's actually quite an entertaining little podcast. And I will say that I did win, thank goodness, because oh my gosh, can you imagine losing to the Super 8 video as great tech?
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, so I think it was maybe at that time Stephen had said, if you're interested in doing a podcast, let me know. And I was right in the middle of a course. So, oh my gosh, I got stuff to do. I don't have time to learn how to podcast. So I let it go. And then they did the first live broadcast. And Stephen mentioned again, you should, think about doing a podcast. So I let it ruminate a little bit. And then the second time in February, the 1-year anniversary, I said, I think I have an idea. And he says, why don't you come on the live show for the 1-year anniversary and chat with it? And I think yourself and maybe Brad Schreffler and maybe even Derek and Noah were on. And we just kind of talked about what I was thinking of. And that's how it was born. I think a week later, I recorded my first podcast.
Right on. Right on. That's the classic Voice Ed radio style.
Exactly. Now I'm like 30-something episodes in.
Awesome. Awesome. And you're doing a great job, by the way. I really enjoy it.
Well, thank you. And you were a wonderful guest on the show.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It was fun being on there. All right. Well, we'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
All right. So before we go, actually, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, probably the best way to get me is on Twitter. And you can find me at Ramona Meharg.
Fantastic. All right. I think we can call this sucker done, hey?
I think so.
Right on. Well, Ramona, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
All right. You take care.
Happy Friday.
Oh, happy Friday. Cheers to that.
Yeah, go get yourself a good home brew.
I will. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see
Bye-bye.
ya.
Yeah. Bye. All right, and if you want to get in touch or you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can email me at theedpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Twitter at theedpodcast. If you want to listen to more of Ed, you can head over to the website, theedpodcast.podbean.com, or find us on Apple Podcasts. Just search up Ed Conversations. Ed is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network powered by ATB. You can find this and all the other member podcasts over at albertapodcastnetwork.com. Ed can also be heard on Voice Ed Radio. It's 24-hour internet broadcasting devoted to the best ideas in education. Just head over to voiced.ca. So on behalf of myself and Ramona, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.